Hello again. Alright, so I guess I'll start off by going through the posts that I haven't responded to yet in this thread. I gotta admit, not as interesting as they have been. Maybe it's just the Taco Bell and the cholesterol and shit that's running through my veins and churning in my stomach right now. It tends to make me a more dull person, you know. Whereas fruits and veggies are, I don't know, more sensitive. I think I'm more intelligent when I eat better. So, the Duke. Hopefully this becomes a regular thing, as walls of text often lose the charm and nuance of spoken word plus video. I'd like it to be a regular thing. I think it would be cool if we started a thread where we just do like a, you know, like a YouTube thing, like VoiceCom, or, you know, you reply to each other with video messages. That would be pretty neat, I think. And we'd start to remember each other better and get to know each other better, you know? I mean, there's obviously so many advantages to this format. I usually watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on Saturday mornings or after school on certain channels. The first couple movies were pretty good too. Admittedly though, I'm a bit older than the majority of the users on this site. I saw the first movie in the theater and played the video games on the original Nintendo Entertainment System. I played the video games on the original Nintendo Entertainment System, and I played them on, I scarcely remember that though, but I do remember playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Hyperstone Heist on the Sega. That shit was baller. You go back and play that, dude, it's so goofy. The things that Shredder says and the enemies say, I mean, it's kind of pitiful that we got so geared up about it back then, because you go through and play it today, you just fucking tearing ass, and the bosses are all kind of pathetic. Good stuff though. Maybe we could get some, like, a Hamachi setup or whatever it's called, where you can play an emulator over the internet with multiple players. I think that would be cool if we had like a voice chat thing going on, playing some old school video games, have some thing going on in FragGuard. I know some people on Zocklet, there's this website they go to where they have video chats. I forget what the site's called, but it's free. Does anyone know what that is? Could you send me a link to that? That would be cool. Thank you. Lord Tolkien. I watched all of them and enjoyed them. I'm glad you enjoyed them. I see some similarities in us just trying to make sense of everything around us. I think that's what humans do naturally, but not on the same level. I do have to ask though, how can someone seemingly so intelligent believe in a God? The more knowledge I acquire, the less I believe. Well, first of all, you have to define God, or define my God, before you can understand how I feel about God. I was raised as a Christian. There's no doubt in my mind that Jesus existed. And then the pendulum swung in the opposite direction with equal force, and I said, well, this guy couldn't possibly exist. Walking on water, this, that. Come on. Come on. And now that I've experienced impossible things firsthand, that doesn't sell God for me. I mean, that doesn't tell me that the Bible must be true or everything in the Bible must be true. I mean, you know, anyone that does a quick internet search can find examples of where the Bible contradicts itself. So even if its source is from God, it was people that wrote the Bible and people inserted their own biases. But there was some truth in it because it was relevant to the times it was written in. So it might have been a good source for people back then. And again, how can I say that with all the Crusades and this, that, this, that, this, that, this, that, this, that, this, that? How could someone seemingly so intelligent believe in a God? Well, I study magic, and I think that it's practical to believe in a sun god because our entire evolution is dependent on the cycles of the planet and the sun. And when you think about Neptune and Venus and Mars and all the other planets, how could astrology affect this? Well, I don't know how or if we just make it meaningful to us, and so the planets become useful in that regard. But when you think of the gravitational force that's affecting us, Earth obviously has a profound effect on us. We evolved out of the mud into upright standing beings, and you can predict someone's personality based on muscular tension. There's a couple good books on the subject. The Body Reveals is a good one. Alan Pease body language books are good, but they're a little more basic. And Body Mind by Ken Dichtwald. And those books, in one way or another, explain how certain tendencies of body language predict personality, and you can relate those to those stances, if you will. People with knuckles forward, like George Bush, or any preference of posture. You can relate those to the stances of animals. You've got the evasive weasels, and you've got the aggressive tigers and lions, and so that adds some validity to more ancient systems of thought, where people believed in, they saw pictures in the stars, and then they related those stars to times of the year, and that's when different gods were in effect. So I can see validity in that kind of God. Whether or not it's real, it's still useful. And then you've got the idea of God as, there's the idea of multiple gods, polytheism. I think that's useful too, because we're all slaves to our culture's ideas. We're all slaves to history. And who you are now is dependent on the entire course of human history. It's dependent on the entire course of Earth's history, so that there's ideas or themes running through the current of our lives that have roots in our beginnings as primates, or whatever. So if God is an idea, a real idea, an idea that lives in the ether or in patterns of behavior, we are all waging a war on each other, and we've either all selected gods, be it the god of television or perhaps the gods have selected us, and we are unwittingly in their power and under their control. We're their foot soldiers, and we're killing each other to meet their ends and to promote their ideas, because ideas are, knowledge is power, knowledge is strength, and that was common in Greek and Roman times. I'm trying to recall some poem that, I'll butcher it, but they basically said that a veil was lifted from the soldier's eyes, and he could see the war going on in front of him as it really was, people fighting God's wars. And you have different ideologies that are more or less controlling people, the church or the scientific standards or whatever, and there's a competition going on. And if you look at God as an overarching idea, then sure, God's real. Back to the impossible things I've experienced. I won't go into too much detail in this video, but I saw into the future one time, and maybe later I'll go into depth with that. But I was super tired. I was sitting on a park bench meditating at 3 a.m. in the morning. I was living on the streets at this time, and with my eyes closed, I could see my environment around me. Now, maybe I was seeing it, or maybe I was just seeing it from my memory, but whatever the case may be, what followed was a vision of a man on a bike with a hat and sunglasses, and he did particular things, and I had the idea of undercover cops in my mind at the time, because I had the inkling that I was being watched by the local authorities to see what I was up to, and that turned out to be a fact. The following morning, I returned to the park bench and sat down. As soon as I woke up, and within 5 minutes, a guy on a bike with a hat and sunglasses did exactly what he did in my vision. So I can't prove that to anyone else, but I'm entirely convinced that I had an experience of seeing the future. And if I can see into the future, then all the other things that I thought was impossible, like walking on the water, might actually have happened at one point in history. So that's why I can believe in a God. I'm not sold on the idea, but it's just as plausible as any scientific theory. The scientific theory is demonstrated with experiments, and I perform experiments, and I saw into the future, so that's my proof. A224, thanks, I will. I'm not sure who you're thanking or what it's in reference to, but if it's got anything to do with me, you're welcome. Hope to hear more from you. Stunned cunt. Let's just keep it simple. Awesome. That was refreshingly honest and real. I'm glad you were inspired by that. And I just saw the heart for the first time that you posted. I love you, man. That's great.